Good afternoon or evening or night, wherever you are. It's the end of 2024. I hope you guys had a good couple of days off for the holidays. I sure did. But we're back with the final 2024 episode of Reddit Questions for Overwatch. Here we go. First question of the week is, as a support, should I follow my tank when they do dumb stuff? I fluctuate around the silver 1, gold 5 range with support, switching off between Juno, Kiriko, and Brig as needed. I often see the tank either running off to chase a kill or getting out of position in one way or another, which often leads to their demise. My question, as said above in the title, is whether or not I should put myself at risk to attempt to save the tank when they zoom off and do something they shouldn't be doing, or should I let them die and stay back to support the rest of the team in the correct position? So the answer to this, as much as people hate it, is it depends. It depends on the tank your team is playing, and it depends on the support you're playing, because each and every hero in those roles, respective roles, plays at a different effective range. If you're a Zenyatta and you have a Reinhardt, you're not supposed to be like right behind them because you're like a long range poke hero. And if your tank is not a Reinhardt and they're like a wrecking ball and they're off in the distance out of your line of sight, should you be chasing them no matter the hero? Probably not. A couple exceptions, maybe Lucio can follow along and wall ride back to safely, but a Zenyatta trying to beeline for the right into the front lines and try to follow the ball, probably not so smart. Keep the orb on him and let him do his thing. The answer when they go and do their own thing is you do it based on the hero you're playing to the best of your abilities. So I guess the general rule or the general answer is play in their relative effective range as best as possible. So almost all Brawl and Poke, like Sigma, or Brawl like Ram, Rein, usually they won't be able to get out of your line of sight for most of the support heroes that you're probably pick. Actually, let's narrow it down. You're playing Juno, Kiriko, and Brig. Brig is backline. Juno can sort of wrap around like one or two corners. One corner usually at most, and you usually play Juno with like a Brawl like the Mauga, the Orisa, the Ram, the Rein. And Kiriko's a lot more flexible. Kiriko is like the one size fits all. She can play with like the Winston dive diva. She can play with Doom. She can play slowly with the Orisa, play slower with the Hazard. Well, Hazard's kind of a little quick. That's actually kind of a bad example. So if you see your tank chasing the kill, depends how far away. Generally speaking, I prioritize my own life when I play support as well. Like if I'm going to go in there, I have to make the read that they're going to be able to kill at least 2 or more and I won't die if I follow them. And if I do die, we better be killing 3 people, because if my tank is off doing their own thing, they probably will die, which means he needs to trade at least like 1 minimum. So if I go, we need to trade 2 people. And generally speaking, that's hard to assess, especially if they're already out of line of sight. Generally speaking, no, but if they're still within enough of a range as an Ana, as a Kiri, or whatever, where you can shoot them, then sure. One final line I'll add is, remember, you can't support stupidity. Like if they are just making terrible decisions, there's only so much you can do. But that does not mean I'm encouraging you to be completely passive and never follow them, because there are times where you can kind of find that medium ground and do what you need to do to help them out. Is it still required to have a main and off tank, and won't it lead to the slow decay of 6v6? So this is in reference to the 6v6 mode that's been out. I'm a seasoned Overwatch 1 player here. We all know that tank queues sucked, which is how we got into this mess, but wasn't it mainly because no one wanted to play main tank? Off tank players didn't seem to mind playing tank until they got matched with another off tank player and one of them had to play main tank. I know that happened a lot because that was my experience, LOL. I enjoy playing Diva and Junker Queen, but I'm scared to queue up for tank in 6v6 because I don't want to feel implicitly forced to be walking damage blocking rectangle again. I know it's early in 6v6, but won't this dynamic stay? I feel it's especially alarming considering every Overwatch 2 is an off tank, except for maybe Ramatra, and Orisa is now an off tank too, so you only have like 3 or 4 tanks that can actually act as a main tank. Not only that, but tank players that enjoyed, let's say, Reinhardt in 5v5 might struggle or find him boring in 6v6, considering how much stronger it is to just hold shield rather than bonking people with the big rocket hammer. Won't this over time make tank queues suck again, or is this dynamic not nearly as present as it was in Overwatch 1? It's less about main and off and more about 2 tank synergies. There actually could be a world where I think 2 of the modernized tanks who are labeled as off tanks could be the meta 2 picks to have. Like, also, what constitutes main or off tank? Back in the day, the definition was kind of like a loose role definition where the main is the one that is like holding this, that is taking the space, and the off tank helps supplement and maintain that space that they're trying to take. So Ryan's the first one to walk up, and then your Zarya's there to kind of supplement and ensure that they're able to do that job safely. But there probably is a world where you can have modernized Hazard with, I don't know, modernized Doom. Is Doom really a main tank? No, I mean, he wasn't a tank in Overwatch 1. Like, these definitions are a little undefined, and I think this dynamic may not be as present because of how much the game has changed over the past couple of years. So that being said, if it does end up being like a main plus off, luckily the traditional main tanks have evolved enough that they kind of feel more off tanky, where they have a bit more flexibility in their game. So let's backtrack here. I say all these heroes have kind of modernized. Winston, compared to the old Winston, has an extra poke tool, which helps him like have a bit more flexibility in this play style as a main tank. Ryan as a main tank has a bit more fluidity and quality of life improvements over the years, minus the Ryan, the steering on the charge, but cancelable charge and all those things are very nice. And honestly, the rest of the old main tanks, like Orisa, she's evolved. She's kind of like you said, an off tank. Ram, maybe not so much. Sigma's a bit of a poke, but Sigma used to be paired with Orisa a lot, but Orisa's changed, so they can, I don't know, I feel like main and off tank, I wouldn't say it's ever going to be required to this, and I don't know about being a decade. This is like looking too far into the future on what could happen, but there could be a world where, again, we just have two tanks that seem to be paired strong together, and we can work off that. Like Zarya bubbling your queen. Is queen really a main tank? Not really by old definitions, but she can be aggressive, and the Zarya's there to kind of supplement and protect her a little bit. So I mean, I guess in that sense she's a main tank, but she can certainly be by herself without too much help from the team to help take space, you know what I mean? So no, I don't think it's going to be required, and no, I don't think it'll lead to the slow decay. There will just be two meta tanks in a 6v6 world if we have the hard 2-2-2 roll lock. But again, this recent test for 2-2-2 was just a test. They're going to see whether that will be the main one, or it'll be the minimum 1, maximum 3, or if the 6v6 was not well received, they're just scrapping it all together and keeping the 5v5. But I will say, I think most people have enjoyed 6v6, so I do see a world where this is probably coming back in some form permanently. So yeah. Destroying Illari's pylon. I've reached gold rank recently. Last game I had, all my team went past Illari's pylon, even if it was in their face, one click away, and sometimes even behind them because they just ignored it, trying to kill someone the pylon was healing and not succeeding. I'm surprised this is happening at that rank when my team has trouble killing anyone. They don't think of destroying that source of healing and prefer shooting on any tank shields. It doesn't matter if you ping or politely ask to be mindful about it in chat. Sometimes even if the enemy team is defeated, they'll just stay next to the pylon right at their feet and ignore it. People don't care and tunnel vision hard like a dog with a bone. My question, at what rank players start taking care of that pylon? To be honest, I thought at gold people would be shooting stuff, but then I think back, do people ever shoot Symmetra turrets? Do they ever shoot Torb turrets? People generally don't shoot deployables because there's so much going on, and we're in like gold. You reached it recently, so you're like bottom gold, high silver. The expectations are not very high in general, so the onus or the tip I always tell people is any job that needs to be done is usually just going to be you. If there's a Torb turret and no one's shooting it, now it's your responsibility, because everyone's just going to point their finger with the bystander effect, be like, is it my job? Is it your job? I'm not shooting it. Can you shoot it? Like realistically, when you get to maybe Diamond Plus, people know general effective ranges. Like, hey, if I'm Zenyatta or Lucio, I have no fall off damage. I can shoot the Torb turret in the distance. If there's an Illari pylon up and over the main choke that nobody can see until they walk past it, the main tank, like a Reinhardt or like a Winston, excuse me, may not need to like actually go and like jump up and zap it to death because it takes too long. They have to turn their back and then, you know, they get shot in the back. So it's not the main tank's job. It's usually a DPS who can maybe take an angle and get an angle to shoot it before the fight breaks out. Diamond Plus, I will say, people will try their best to break it if possible, but a good Illari might pull it down and like put a new one back up right before the fight ensues, so no one shoots it during the middle of the hectic fight, because it is a little bit of a lower priority, right? The pylon only heals like 30 HP per second or 30 to 40 HP per second right now with a DPS passive. 30 per second. It's not like it's ignorable. It's still pretty strong, but like in the thick of a team fight, if it's not convenient enough to destroy, then a lot of them, it will tend to get ignored unless there's like literally like a 2-second downtime period where people are kind of going back and forth, and a good player might see it. And like, if I'm a support and no one's shooting it, as a Kiriko, I'll toss a couple of shots, same as Ana, if it's within reasonable range. But yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. This is probably going to happen for a long time, up until maybe like high plat or diamond. So you're, yeah, again, silver, gold. Yeah, no one's shooting the pylon. No one's shooting any deployables. So you should break it. Take that responsibility. Honest discussion about DPS passive. For context, I hit GM in Overwatch 1, remained GM in Overwatch 2 up until Season 9, peaking at about top 500, which was rank 128. I have played heavily every season. I actually love this game. With the release of Season 14, I have never felt the game feel in a worse state. I honestly am not sure if the DPS passive is entirely to blame, but that is the main feels bad balance change to me. I've never lost Overwatch as much as I have lost in these last few weeks. Playing support feels feels miserable. When Overwatch 2 first released, support changed a lot, and many people, including myself, had to adapt to a more damage-oriented playstyle with 5v5. 5v5 supported that playstyle, and I came to love not only playing support and managing my damage versus healing, but I love when I play tank and had a support popping off. In game design philosophy, I hear a lot of trying to take things away from the player because it feels awful having something and then losing it. I'd argue that the DPS passive is something that takes away from all players, not just supports. Everyone in the lobby has to change the way they play because supports are just worse DPS now, in my opinion. The amount of times this season I've had to walk behind a wall and the Skyrim NPC music starts playing because I'm waiting for Bap and Ana to heal me while the DPS passive wears off is frustrating. In contrast, I've been playing a lot of Rivals recently. This is not a which's game is better post. I like both. Healing your teammate in that game and being healed for the full amount every time makes for a faster and smoother gameplay experience, significantly less frustrating. Imagine the patch notes came out and all support healing was nerfed, all hero health decreased, and all damage buffed. The community would lose their minds looking at these patch notes, and for me, that's what the DPS passive feels like. What are your thoughts? So I just need to get good. Are you experiencing the same issues? I love Overwatch truly. I just wish I was having more fun with it. This is your experience with it, and that is totally valid. I like how you were articulating it very respectfully. If I'm being completely honest, I don't feel the DPS passive as much as people think. This is probably because you read the patch notes, so you know it's like, what, 25% healing reduction, and you're standing out of line of sight to wait for the DPS passive to come off. For me personally, I'm not waiting behind cover to wait for the thing to wear off. I'm just hiding out of cover because I need to hide out of cover, and I let the game play itself, and if my support's healing me, great, so be it. The reason why they added it because of the support healing creep, which was too high and things weren't dying. So this was one of their ways to, they obviously increase the HP pool, which effectively nerfs the average time it takes to heal someone to full. Then they added a DPS passive so that the onus is on the DPS player to focus on a target, and then they have the healing reduction when they're being targeted, versus slapping a 25% healing reduction across all supports. So the onus would be on the supports to pick the right target because their healing is lower overall. So it actually, the DPS passive makes sense in a way where it shifts more focus and a higher priority and a bigger job for the DPS to actually pick the right target to apply that to, again, rather than the support on the other team just having less healing overall, which is a way to make the DPS role feel less cosmetic, because at a certain point from like what, season 1 to 9 before they added the HP pool and the DPS passive, everybody said the DPS role felt cosmetic. I think we literally have a video on this channel called "The DPS role feels cosmetic" in the hot takes video, because a lot of the DPS players were not having fun. It was a very support-oriented game. Support players were having a great time because the healing was too high. This is how you feel about it. That is the discussion piece for me. I think it's actually a good thing in that sense to give the DPS a better role. Nerfs the supports in a way, probably because I'm a support player. Maybe that's why I don't feel it. If I'm getting shot by a tracer and they're a good tracer, like, I'm dead regardless, irrespective of the DPS passive. I think the tank players are the ones that feel it the most. But again, I guess you mentioned that you do play tank, so maybe did you mention you play tank? Oh yeah, you did. You mentioned you play tank, so that might be the reason why you feel it more, and that makes sense because you're the one person who's being affected by that DPS passive. But then I go back to that argument I just made. If the support just had less healing overall, then the entire game, whether you're being shot by the DPS or being shot by anybody, your supports have less healing per second to keep you up. If we didn't have it and we slapped the healing nerf across the board, that also wouldn't feel good. Now this is just you on the receiving end. I know you make the comparison to Rivals. Again, I play Rivals a lot too, and I like it a lot, but we have to remember Rivals is in its infancy, and you said it feels, healing your teammate and being healed the full amount feels funner for you and less frustrating. Have you considered the opposite, where you're trying to shoot the enemy and nothing dies? Because Luna's snow ult lasts 12 fucking seconds, Zenyatta's ultimate lasts 6 seconds, and it already feels long. That shit is 12 seconds long, and then Mantis has a similar ultimate which lasts too long. In that game, everything is cranked up to the max, and maybe that's like the direction they're going, where everything's OP, nothing feels OP. But I would say that game is also a support or strategist run game, not DPS, besides 2 outliers like Hela and Hawkeye, which get banned. Actually, right now, Luna, Snow, and Mantis get banned a lot in high elo because people know these supports and the upkeep they have is insane. That game's got massive healing creep problems, and right now I like it a lot because it's crazy and wild and wacky and it's fun and it's early. But like, let's be honest here. I've had the 70,000 healing games. Actually, I think I had a game where I was playing Mantis with like 40,000 healing and like 30,000 damage. 23-minute game, by the way, and my Luna on my team had like 86,000 healing in a GM lobby. Like, that shit does not die in that game. Like, they die, but they like don't. There's so much damage you have to output nonstop. So there's a lot of stress and a lot of chaos in that game, pure chaos. Those are my thoughts. I don't think the DPS passive in Overwatch, like it's nice. It feels worse for the tank probably, but like I think it was actually a pretty good direction. I actually like the Season 9 HP pool changes and all that stuff. I don't know how I ended up ranting about that or rambling about that, but yeah. Is Bastion any good in metal ranks? I'm a low gold support. Maybe high silver, lol. Mostly play Mercy, Brig, and Lifeweaver. I constantly see Bastions. I'm lucky if I have a game without a Bastion on my team, but the issue is I don't feel like Bastion has much value. I don't play DPS since I'm ass at it, but I always feel like unless I'm hard pocketing, they struggle to get kills, and even then, it feels better to just pocket somebody else who can get better value. Is there anything I can do to help my Bastions, or is he just not the greatest pick in lower ranks? Opposite, I think Bastion thrives on people not taking natural cover, which an average low gold or silver player does not know how to do. Bastion absolutely thrives on it if he has the resources to help him out. If he's planting himself on the payload, you need to help him. And you say it's probably better to pocket someone else who get better value. No, the value, not necessarily killing, but it forces everybody to run away and hide behind cover. Obviously, if he converts the kill, that means they were completely out of position. They weren't ready for it. But the only thing you can do to help Bastion, especially if you play these three, I wouldn't play Brig with it because the whole point of the bunker is to like make sure he stays alive, and Brig can only throw so many health packs. Everyone's running away and staying away, so you can't keep your passive up. Lifeweaver is probably your best bet. Same with Mercy to damage boost and or res him when he's in trouble. But you should definitely help him. Bastion is very good in these ranks because again, he thrives on chaos. He's super big HP pool, and he thrives on people not taking cover. Kiri Kitsune Rush. How do I ensure a useful ultimate? I'm currently working my way through plat with Kiri, but I'm starting to think inconsistent use of Kitsune Rush is holding me back. What I mean is sometimes my ult is super valuable, play of the game value, and other times it turns my teammates brain dead. I generally try to use her ult in two situations. If a fight isn't looking good and I want to try to turn it by adding damage or focus healing to keep teammates alive, or other times are if I want to press the other team more and make space. Okay, so a tempo ultimate. Really only using it in those two situations means I end up holding the ult too long and sometimes looking for the right moment. Then I'd say half the time I do use it, my teammates decide to just rush forward and get slaughtered as they believe they are immortal now. I'm starting to think using her ult more selfishly for smaller engagements might be the answer, or what other styles or methods of using her ult are more effective. I mean, these are pretty much the only two situations. Turning a fight when it's not looking good, or being proactive to press the team more and make space. Or when the team fight, or I guess the third one is the team fight is about to break out and you use it either first or in response to theirs. I mean, you cover, these are very broad situations. The holding it too long is probably too situational. Right now, it feels like you're not actually recognizing when to press the other team or make space more at the right times. Or if you're trying to turn it and you're turning it too late where it's already a lost cause and you waste it. So like, ultimate usage, the thing is, at least you're trying to use it in these two situations. I'd say learning ultimate usage requires you to kind of just like make all the data points in your head, by using it in a bunch of situations where you can narrow down and think about where you got the most value. If your teammates decide to rush forward and get slaughtered, sometimes that's out of your control, being like, okay, we're using the ultimate, but like, you know, it doesn't mean you just press W and put your shield down and get completely blasted. Like, here's the thing, if they decide to do this, it's usually like a go button. It's a proactive button. If your team is being too passive, sometimes you need them to like do something. But here it sounds like you're probably using it in a neutral poke where there's nothing happening, where if you pop in this section, it makes them feel like they have to do something and they're in no position to like take advantage of it. So they will try to force something that isn't there, like a really risky fart, and then they get slaughtered as a result because they're in the open. Like, I'm a Reinhardt, there's a Kitsune Rush, okay, but the enemy is like 50 meters away. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? All right, fuck it, I gotta charge in, I guess, right? And then they charge in, then they get blasted. So I don't know about using it more selfishly for smaller engagements, but like, it depends what you mean by this. I would never use this truly like a 1v1 for the most part. Very, very small situations, but like, if it looks like there's a small clash about to happen, it's like if you feel like you can take advantage and secure 1 to 0 kill, like an instant 5v4 advantage, that might be something to look out for. That's an actionable tip. And see if that helps. Because again, why do we use ultimates in this game? To not necessarily win a team fight, but to like take the objective. If they're at a numbers disadvantage, there's a likelihood you're probably going to win the fight, make them retreat, or in the best case scenario, wipe the entire team, ace them, and then you get more objective push. If you kill one, catch somebody out of position, then you get free objective space. That's generally pretty good. Selfishly, yes. Smaller engagements, yeah, just maybe not so much in a 1v1. In a 1v1, you either win it with your kunais or you just TP out. And Kitsune is so good for your team. It is such a good tempo, valuable ultimate. So yeah. How does the improvement curve look for you? I was wondering at what rate do people improve on Overwatch, if it's the same for everyone. No. And if one rank was particularly hard to get out of, but after that it was easygoing. This depends. Personally, I've been sub-silver for 1,300 hours, and I think I'm slower to improve than most, but I want to hear others' experience. My improvement curve, I have thousands of hours. My first shooter was Counter-Strike 1.6 when I was 13 years old. That was 2005. And then my second shooter was Halo 3 on console, and then Call of Duty. And then I went to CSGO when it came out like a couple of years later, because I got into League of Legends and been playing new shooters for a bit. And then Overwatch. So the curve for me would be different than a curve for you. It's definitely not the same because I have a couple thousand hours on a different shooter on console, and it gives you like FPS, general map knowledge and awareness of your surroundings and sight lines and all those kinds of things. So for me, it was pretty easy to rise up to the top 1%. Because again, I have like 5,000 plus hour advantage on shooters, especially early in Overwatch. And then getting into top 500 pretty early on, and then it was just maintenance ever since. It's harder to improve and easier to maintain. And if you've been silver for 1,300, then yeah, I would say maybe slower to improve than most, but that's okay. People need to accept that not everyone has to be the most talented FPS shooter. If you're having fun, like who cares? I have accepted that I'm never going to be an amazing basketball player. Even if I put 1,000 hours, like there's just some things I just can't do. I will enjoy playing basketball, but like I don't have the, maybe I could build up my endurance or athleticism or finesse and technique. Who's to say I can't? But I'm definitely slower than like a natural gifted athlete, for example. And that's okay. How can I tell what fights I should be taking? Hi, I'm currently silver 1 after dropping from gold 1. I mainly play quick play where I just take whatever fight I want as a DPS. It's fun, but I think I've created a lot of bad habits that I can't help in comp. When I play, I'm able to get kills, usually doing well in that department other than the odd bad game, but I die way too much. I try to hold cover, I try to take angles, but the DPS aren't holding, and try my best to stay in LOS if a support of all times, but no matter what, I always end up with more deaths than I should. My personal belief is that I possibly try to secure kills I really shouldn't be trying to secure because they are too dangerous, and I'm not sure how to know when I'm going to be punished for something by the enemy. Usually after I'm punished for being stupid and making a bad play, I will try to play more passive, but that just ends up making me feel like I'm not having much of an impact at all. Especially since I know I can be doing more, I just have no idea when I should be pushing for those kills. Apologies if my post is a bit of a ramble, so I'm not sure how to express this. Thank you for reading. It's a very broad question because we call this, looking for the right opportunities and picking the best opportunity or choice in that moment. So you're just blundering. I always use the chess analogy here, but it's like, if you're if you're trying to figure out a team fight, like a low elo player sees like 2 or 3 options, but like the grandmaster player sees like 30 ways this can go and their response to it, and they know how to pick the best choice. For you, you just don't want to make the blunder where you die and didn't get anything out of. People will be blundering, people will be making mistakes all game because you also have to factor in what your teammates are doing. But the fights you should be taking or the angles you should be taking should try not to, you try not to die for nothing. That's like the biggest takeaway. And knowing when is just going to take experience, and it seems like you're doing the right thing, but you just have to reflect a little more. You could probably reflect at the end of the game and maybe try to see if you'd make one bad play where you're too aggressive and then you go too passive right after. Not necessarily, you don't have to do that necessarily, but you have to quickly react and be in the moment in the game, you reflect and be like, did I die because of my choice, or were they just ready for me and they just simply won the Widow duel, for example? Because I think you said you're playing a hit scan DPS. You could try that again, and if you continue failing, then you make the adjustment. Doesn't mean you have to adjust to play passively, but adjust your angle, adjust your timing, and adjust your execution. Yours is a bit of a, you said how you're a bit of a rambler, you don't know how to express it. I really don't know how to express the right answer for you other than deliberate reflection in reviews. Because again, it can be hard to kind of figure that out in the middle of the game. So at the end, when you watch your playback on why you died, think about less of why you died and the reason, the Widow hit the shot, and think about the other, maybe 3 options or 3 different angles you could have taken in that moment. Did you pop out too early? If I played in this spot versus this spot, how do you think the outcome would have played out, right? You don't truly know how it will play out because it didn't happen, but that's how a high grandmaster chess player, or I guess an Overwatch player thinks. They know, if I take this high ground angle on Hollywood at second and I look down, what do I see here? Now, if I rewatch that and in your example, let's just say we died there. Okay, you watch the replay. I'm on high ground Hollywood. I'm looking down. Why did I die? Because I peeked out and 3 of them were able to look at me and I died. Where was the rest of my team? All the way back here. So my timing was bad. Is the position necessarily bad? Maybe not. What if I waited? So the next like pathway or the choice you could have made was to wait for a little bit. And if everybody was focused and looking here and you see that nobody sniffed you out in your spot there, then maybe that could have been a better opportunity, or it would have worked out better if you just waited 5 extra seconds. Patience, timing is such a big part of this game, especially for DPS. Then you also play out some other choices. If I didn't go to this high ground and I just went all the way on the flank, would they have seen me? When should I have popped out? These are questions you always have to be asking yourself. Wouldn't say questions asking yourself, but like these are rapid firing neurons that are instantaneous for a high level player. But you're gonna have to think about these choices until it becomes second nature. And those are the fights and the angles you should be taking. Thanks for listening. Whoever made it to the end, and Happy New Year. You guys in 2025. Goodbye.